Well, this seems to be like every time President Trump gets closer and closer to the edge, it's hard to see how this time he won't withdraw from the deal, given everything he said, given all the attempts that appear to have failed to convince him otherwise. That said, President Trump's middle name is unpredictable, so who knows what he'll do. But in some ways, the die is cast. Whether he withdraws now or maintains uncertainty, the benefits that Iran wanted to get from the deal are basically evaporating. So it's going to be very hard to keep the deal alive unless Europe does something quite significant, even if President Trump decides on this week, oh, I'm going to give another 3 months reprieve. He has basically made clear that he doesn't like the deal, that the U.S. shouldn't be a party to the deal, and that unless it changes fundamentally, the U.S. won't stay in. It seems, at least based on everything I'm hearing from the Europeans and from people here, that President Trump wants to walk out of the deal, not because he's not satisfied with its substance, but because it's an Obama legacy and because he wants to show that he can be tougher and that he can negotiate a different deal, or that he could put pressure on Iran and perhaps even cause the collapse of the regime. So it's not clear to me at this point that it's a rational case of can we convince President Trump that his interests have been met. It seems more like he wants to walk out of the deal because he wants a different approach towards Iran, and he'll do what it takes to get there. So even if President Trump decides this week, I'm going to give Europe another 3 months to come back with a better deal, we know they're not going to come back with a better deal because you can't unilaterally get a better deal. So it's just going to add 3 more months of uncertainty. The question now is whether the U.S. part of the deal dies in one full swoop this week, or whether it's death by 1,000 cuts. In either case, the responsibility will lie with Europe to convince the Iranians that they have enough to offer Iran. They need to convince Iran there's enough in this deal for you. We're going to try to give you as many of the economic benefits that you expect, but we're also going to be tougher with you on other aspects of your policy. I think that's a fair conversation to have with Iran. And that's the case that Europe has to make to Iran. But let's try to stay in this deal together. And again, the key argument for Iran will be, do you prefer having Europe and Iran against President Trump, or the U.S. and Europe against Iran? That just exacerbates their fears that this is just the first salvo in an attempt to overthrow the regime. And when a regime like the Iranian one feels under siege, feels that it's threatened, it will lash out. And again, that's the threat that we face, particularly at a time when Israel and Iran are in a very high tension over what's happening in Syria. This is an explosive cocktail, and it looks like President Trump is about to light the fuse.